Millions dead, a dynasty in ruins, an entire civilization erased in 18 days of civil war. Traditional accounts blame one man for this destruction, Shakuni, a foreign prince who triggered the apocalypse with a single game of dice. Why did he do it? Shakuni had everything to lose. He was the heir to a wealthy, stable kingdom, yet he spent his life inside the court of his enemies, slowly orchestrating the downfall of his own sister's family. Shakuni's survival and the eventual collapse of the Kuru dynasty illustrate the principles of asymmetric warfare. He showed how an individual stripped of military power can systematically dismantle a superpower from the inside. This is Gandhara, Shakuni's homeland. It was a prosperous trade hub, but it lacked the massive standing armies of its neighbors. For generations, the kingdom of King Subala relied entirely on passive diplomacy to maintain its independence. That peace ended when the Kuru Empire made a demand they couldn't refuse. Bhishma, the formidable regent of Hastinapura, arrived to claim Princess Gandhari as a bride for the blind prince Dhritarashtra. When Gandhara hesitated, Bhishma's response was immediate. This stone relief shows the military reality King Subala faced: rows of disciplined Kuru archers and heavy chariots parked at his border. Subala surrendered his daughter to save his people. Shakuni watched this submission and learned his first bitter lesson. Traditional diplomacy fails instantly when faced with absolute military force. The Kuru leadership eventually locked the entire Gandhara royal family away in a dungeon. Ostensibly, it was punishment for their initial political resistance and a ritual intended to ward off a family curse. But in reality, it was an act of total suppression. The conditions were designed to kill them. The guards provided the entire group of prisoners only a single handful of rice per day, not enough for one man, let alone a king and his sons. King Subala and his 99 sons made a horrific calculation. To ensure one person survived to take revenge, the others voluntarily starved to death, giving their daily grain of rice to Shakuni, the cleverest among them. These dice are the evidence of his transformation. Traditional accounts say Shakuni fashioned them from the bones of his dead father, turning a symbol of his family's suffering into the very tool he would use to destroy his captors. By trying to crush a minor threat with brute force, the Kuru Empire inadvertently created a brilliant, radicalized enemy who had lost everything except his mind. Shakuni was eventually released through his sister's influence. He knew he could never defeat the Kuru generals on an open battlefield, so he changed the nature of the conflict. He abandoned his homeland to live permanently in the Kuru court. Instead of raising an army, he began a campaign of internal manipulation, fighting an asymmetric war from within the halls of power. He bypassed the traditional advisors to reach King Dhritarashtra directly. Shakuni exploited the king's deep insecurities about his blindness and his precarious authority, making himself an indispensable voice. He then focused on the heir, Duryodhana. As a mentor, Shakuni deliberately fed the young prince's jealousy, convincing him that his cousins, the Pandavas, were the only thing standing between him and absolute power. This manipulation led to the infamous game of dice. Shakuni designed it as a trap that weaponized the Kuru's own warrior pride. By the rules of honor, the Pandavas could not refuse the challenge. With a few rolls of the bone dice, Shakuni stripped the Pandavas of their kingdom and forced them into exile. He had decapitated the opposition without ever drawing a sword. Shakuni successfully identified the Kuru dynasty's greatest strength, their rigid honor code, and turned it into their fatal vulnerability. The results of Shakuni's strategy were absolute. The Kuru dynasty eventually tore itself apart in this massive civil war. Every manipulation had worked. The empire was in ruins. On the final day of the war, Shakuni faced the Pandava warrior Sahadeva on the battlefield. For the first time, the master plotter dropped his mask of deceit. He confessed that his every move was driven by the memory of the dungeon. But as he looked at the millions dead, he expressed a heavy remorse. His vengeance was complete, but the cost was the destruction of an entire world. Sahadeva struck the final blow. Shakuni accepted it, treating his death as a release from the weight of the schemes he had carried for decades. He did not die as a villain receiving his comeuppance, but as a man who had successfully finished a long, sorrowful suicide mission. The history of the Kuru dynasty highlights a recurring geopolitical reality. Overwhelming military force can secure a temporary brute force victory, but when it is used to crush the powerless, it creates the exact conditions for an internal sabotage that can rot a superpower from within.